If you're buying a home in Los Gatos, San Jose, or anywhere in Silicon Valley, you're probably aware that the seller has a lot of disclosure obligations. The seller is supposed to let the buyer know of anything that impacts value or desirability. What that means in California is anything that would impact the buyer's decision to buy or how much to pay. In other states, it can mean other things, strictly related to the property, for example. But in California, it's more broad than that. So, for example, if a school was about to close in the neighborhood, you are supposed to be informed of that. It's a good rule of thumb. Many people mistakenly think that every question that's important to a buyer is somehow covered on one of these forms. I would like to suggest, though, that actually the forms are an aid to finding out what might impact value or desirability, but they cannot cover every conceivable issue or problem that would concern a buyer. So a few things you should be aware of. One, if you care a lot whether or not anyone ever died in the home, please note that on the forms, the question posed to the seller is not if anyone ever died, but if anyone died in the last 3 years. So if it's a concern to you, you may want to ask the seller through your agent to the listing agent, that's how the questions usually go, if anyone has ever died on the property to their knowledge. They may or may not know, but at least if you pose the question, you may find out that somebody died 3 years and 1 day ago. Another thing that may not come up is a problem relationship with a neighbor. The seller may feel that this is really not related to the property, they just had bad chemistry or something along those lines. But you can certainly ask the question if there have been any conflicts with any neighbors, and if so, over what. It could have been a noise issue coming from the home you're buying, which would be a non-issue, or maybe a noise issue from their side, or some other issue with the neighbor. So not every seller will realize that if there's not a question on the form addressing their specific problem with the neighbor, that they still have to tell you. So for example, I had clients who bought a house in South San Jose, and after they moved in, they found out that the next door neighbor smoked pot in their backyard, and they couldn't stand the smell. Luckily, the neighbors ended up moving away, so the problem resolved itself. But the seller in the house they bought probably didn't realize it was an issue, or maybe it was never in their backyard. So those are questions to ask if there have been any conflicts with the neighbors, and if so, what was the nature of the conflicts, how long were they resolved. People tend to fight about things that are fixable, like tree branches going over the property line. One last thing to look for is if the home sold in the last few years, if this is a resale from recent years, are there any old inspections, reports, and disclosures from when that current seller bought last time? So that's something you can request. They normally do hold on to these things for a few years. If they're working with the same agent from when they purchased the home, there's a good chance that the agent has those old disclosures. And sometimes there's things in there that might be worth knowing about. So when you look at disclosures from the seller, remember the sellers, as much as they might be well-meaning and have good intentions, they might forget things. So going back to the old paperwork might give you some good information that would be helpful to you. Whether it's something positive, like, oh, the pipes are copper, or whether it's something negative that you can address or just learn to live with, or decide maybe I don't want the house after all. So that's it on disclosures and digging a little deeper. My name is Mary Pocandy. I'm with Serena Group in Los Gatos. And if you want to talk to me about buying or selling a home, my phone number is 408-204-7673. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.